Hi folks, welcome to VideoCode. In this video, we are going to add validations to the form builder. If you couldn't watch the first video, click the card in the right corner and watch it first. Now, let's talk a little bit about validations. Angular has built-in validations which require you to use more strict values in a form, such as minimum, maximum value or character, is input required, or a regex pattern. Validators API has this functionality, and if you want to use it, Angular Forms package must be imported in the app module. The first thing we need to do is add required option to input fields. So I'm going to open the base form component and I'm going to add required attribute to all control types. This attribute will be dynamic and controlled from the form field module. Field.required is available and true, and this error message says this cannot be undefined. So the simplest way to pass this error is to add a double exclamation mark. It's an operator that simply returns true the value of the expression. For example, a null or undefined value has an associated Boolean value of false. I'm doing the same thing for checkbox. Now, I'll bind the error messages to the form. So first thing we need to do is add div like a container to control form status. That div will show error messages if form.controls element key, field key dot invalid, and inside the parentheses form controls field key form field is dirty, or form controls field key is touched. When a user touches any input field but does not enter a value, an error message will be shown. Again, when the user blurs the input field without entering a value, an error message will be displayed. Thus, we are able to display validation messages for the form fields. Inside the container, we will be able to use any error messages to inform the user. We can add new span if form.controls field key dot errors, and inside the errors has an, for example, required validators. We can say field dot label is required. Similarly, we need to add other validation messages that we want to show. By the way, we need to block submitting form, thus we prevent possible wrong or empty fields. To do that, I'll do the same thing for submit button. Add a disabled attribute and form is invalid and form is dirty or form is touched. And also we need to inform form status. We will talk about it in a little while. Now we are ready to go. Create an array here like this and check validators have a value and pass these values in the second parameter right here. If field.validators and validators length greater than 0, validators equals to field.validators. I need to add an validators in my base form element model. Add declare property validators right here. And add here. That's an optional property. And also that can be undefined. This dot validators equals to options dot validators. I come back to base form component. Also, we need to say what is validators type. Sorry, that's not a Boolean value. That's an validator function. By the way, we have a required option in the form model, so we need to check here and pass with validators if the required option is true. Fields.required equals to true. Validators equals to validators dot required, and also validators parameter in validators options in here. That's an array, so we need to pass like this. After that, let's add some validations to our form inside the app component. I'm opening the component test, and for text box field, we can say a minimum length for the username. Validators dot min length. Maybe we can say 3. And is that must be optional. Required true. Let's open the page. Now we can try it. Let's input some string here. As you can see, after the third character, the submit button will be enabled. There are two issues. One of them is where is the error message, and the second one is in the first load you can see the submit button is enabled. Maybe we can change a little bit more, like this: form is not dirty or form is not touched. So we can simply add other validators control here, which is min length. We can say field.label must be 2 or more character. All of these are lowercase. Yeah. How can we get the number that we use in here? Simply, we can get from form controls fields dot key dot errors min length dot required length. Okay, let's check again. Yeah, that looks fine. For instance, we would like to use username validation. There are multiple appropriate implementations. If the validation you want to use is a common feature in your app, you can simply add a new field that implements it with a validation. For that example, you can add validation control to an input with a directive, or we can add the validation inside the validators option. We'll see the second option here. Also, the username checking process might be an async operation. In this example, I'm going to imitate an API that will check username is already exist in the database and returns a Boolean value. To do that, we need to specify async validators in the model, because Angular form controls wants these operations in its third parameter. That will be async validators. As you can see, the third parameter is async validator. It's the same with validators, and we can simply clone from that. Also, we need to add in our model, not here, required. Also, we need to change this type async validator fn function, or undefined. This async validator goes to options async validator. Async validator length equal greater than 0. Async validator async validator. Yeah, we are ready to implement custom validations. Let's open a new service that we can add our custom validations. Ng generate service. Let's move this service to helpers folder. Async or non-async validators should be static functions. Because we can access this context inside of it. Also, for each component you want to use, you need to create new instances. If you want to use external dependency like a user service, we need to pass it as a parameter. This function will return abstract control, and abstract control will return a promise or observable object. Let's look at what we'll see in here. As I said, if you want to use external service, maybe you can say username service. You can pass it in here. This function will return async validators fn Return control is abstract control. From Angular Forms. And this will be promise, validation errors, null or observable validation errors, or null. We can access value from control.value. And inside this, I'll do what I want. Let's specify an async process with RxJS functions. Return of username check true. Validation errors is an object that basically specifies the error name and its value. So that's a basic object. Specifies the error type in here like this. We will clone from that after the implementation. We can add an pipe here and some delay, maybe 1 second. Also, if username check is not true, we need to return null in here. Returning null basically says there are no error occurred. For an instance of email control, we can say check at string exists in the input. I'm just saying that may be controlled by an API. So I will check these. Value that includes, value is includes, and at string return of null. Maybe 500 millisecond. Else return email validation error, maybe true. That pipe delay. I will put a delay function here because we can see more latency to understand. Let's go back to app component and add an async validators and custom app validation service dot email validation. Let's add email validation error to base form component. Yeah, as you can see, username is required after 2 validators. You can see latency and got some error message. It's not username. It's working fine. Besides that, a loading message or an icon can be shown in the input through the process. To do that, we need to check pending status in if form.controls field.key pending equals to true, we can say, and loading message. Also, we don't want to submit button to be clicked by a user before the process has finished. We need to check that case in submit button disabled attribute and or form.status equals to pending string. Yeah, as you can see, that comes, let's turn on and turn off. In the next lesson, we will add new components and change these input fields. Please don't subscribe to my channel for more. You can reach me on Twitter. If you want custom classes and many more, press the join button and get benefits. Bye for now.